Kentucky update. I have a lot of information today. First, we will start with an update on efforts at stabilization and recovery with regards to the record flooding in eastern Kentucky. And then we're going to give what's almost a 9-month update on recovery efforts for the tornadoes in western Kentucky. Have a few other items after that, but let's start in steps taken in the 3 different phases: emergency, stabilization, and recovery / rebuilding in response to certainly the most devastating and deadly flooding that we have ever seen in eastern Kentucky or across Kentucky. As a summary, in the emergency phase, we've lost at least 39 Kentuckians in 5 counties. We continue to search for 2 missing Breathitt County residents: Vanessa Baker, a 60-year-old female, and Nancy Cundiff, a 29-year-old female. Both are from the Lost Creek community. The Kentucky State Police Aviation Branch is conducting another aerial search for the 2 missing women, and so many different crews have been out multiple weekends and pretty much day in and day out continuing that search. If you have any information about either of these individuals, please contact Post 13 at Hazard at 606-435-6069. We're praying for these families, even if it just means closure. We're praying for them. Power outages. As of today, only 262 outages in the impacted counties. That's down from 27,000 outages at the peak on July 29th. Water outages. All drinking water systems are now operational. We'll talk about wastewater in a minute, but all drinking water systems are now up and running. There are only 53 service connections without water, but there's still 1,310 service connections under a boiled water advisory. 2 water systems are operational but are under limited operations. Those are the Breathitt County Water District. They have 33 of the 53 service connections without water. And then the Hazard Water has 20 of the connections without water. The village of Buckhorn is now fully operational. I want to thank everybody who worked on that. It was a big effort. And connection restoration to Buckhorn Lake State Resort Park should be completed by the end of the week. We'll recap my trip to eastern Kentucky a couple days ago in a minute. But the big news for Perry County and Buckhorn is we were able to provide, between state and federal grants, $8.8 million for the construction of a new water treatment plant in Buckhorn. This means in future flooding, they won't be as prone to losing water. They've lost water significant times in the past. This is a really big deal for Perry County. It can be a game changer in terms of even economic development in Buckhorn and other parts, but it's certainly going to give a more steady and reliable water connection and service to the city of Buckhorn. With everything they've been through, this is pretty neat. It's about not just getting back on your feet, but truly moving forward with a treatment plant that they didn't have in the past. On wastewater, we still have 4 wastewater systems not operational. Those are Fleming, Neon, Millstone Alternative. Both of those are in Letcher County. Buckhorn Elementary and High School in Perry County, and Robinson Elementary School in Perry County. We are, for Fleming Neon wastewater, KYEM, FEMA, USACE, and EEC are progressing on temporary portable treatment units. Certainly in Fleming Neon, pretty much the whole system, wastewater system, wiped out. It's going to be a big task in the rebuilding there. We look at state park sheltering. We still have 345 people sheltering at Jenny Wiley, Buckhorn, and Carr Creek State Park. It breaks down to 183 in Jenny Wiley, 138 in Buckhorn, and 24 in Carr Creek. So that's a whole lot of the emergency phase. When we look at the stabilization phase, first piece of that is FEMA. To date, FEMA's approved 13 counties for individual assistance. Lee County got added on September 2nd. That was the 13th. I will tell you, we did not think this many counties would get chosen or approved for individual assistance. It's more than we would normally see, and it certainly happened faster. So in those counties, those 13, people can apply for $500 in critical needs assistance. That's gotten out pretty well. The Clean and Sanitize program, $300. That's gotten out some. That's just not nearly enough when you've got mold 3 or 4 feet high in your home. And then obviously more dollars have come through those seeking other assistance. 20 counties have been approved for public assistance. And one other point that we've got to continue to make, because we continue to hear concerns, for anybody who receives a dollar amount from FEMA between $179 and $195, it's not your total award. And they're now going to start sending emails about this, which they weren't before, and it confused a lot of people. If you're getting that amount, what that is for is to pay a contractor to inspect and provide an estimate of your damages. Those are damages to your HVAC, septic system, well, retaining wall, single family road or bridge. What you need to do is use those dollars for that contractor, get the estimate, and then file an appeal or go to the Disaster Recovery Center. I want to make sure we keep getting that word out. To date, for FEMA, individual and household programs, more than $60.6 million paid. We're now up to 52% of all applications that have been made having been approved for at least some level of assistance. When I first got these numbers, it was about 36, 37%. We've pushed really hard. I believe this is one of the highest percentages we've seen in a FEMA response. Now, it needs to be higher, but that is progress, and we are seeing, thankfully, more pressure being pushed by this office and others, but also more response from FEMA. So they've received 13,527 applications. They've approved 7,100 of them. We have turned around over 2,000 no's into yeses, but a lot more work to go. So total housing assistance, $49.7 million through FEMA. Other needs assistance, $10.8 million. This is ongoing, and people should continue to push your claim. Appeal, appeal, appeal. Get whatever extra documentation you need. Don't stop. Keep pressing. Fixed disaster recovery centers are still available at 6 locations. There they are. They are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday. So Breathitt County is at the Breathitt Library. Clay is at the Clay County Community Center. Knott's the Knott County Sportsplex. Letcher is the Letcher County Recreation Center. Perry is the Hazard Community College. And thank you to that community college. I saw their president a couple days ago. They've done a really good job and want to thank them for housing us. And in Pike County, the Dorton Community Center. Remember, you can go and talk to someone from FEMA who has decision-making authority over your claim at these sites. Now, not everybody set up has that, but there's supposed to be at least one at each of these sites. It's the quickest way to figure out what else they need from you and how to get approved. All right, new today, we have some numbers on private bridges and bridge access. We have a program where we've both registered and asked private individuals to register access issues to private bridges. We've had 423 private bridges that have been registered. They'll be evaluated by the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet and FEMA. Evaluation doesn't mean that you'll be eligible for emergency access, but that's what they're going to be looking at first. Where do they need to provide emergency temporary access? So the bridges break down right here. Certainly you can understand in Breathitt County, if you went down, say, Route 15 as it goes into Jackson, how hard that was hit. Knott County, the same in their streams, and certainly Letcher hit awfully hard. Commonwealth Sheltering Program. Can we bring up that slide? Major progress since last week. I think our last update was last Wednesday, and we had 119 travel trailers at the time. As of today, 197. We're up 78 travel trailers just from last week. We have 100 of them occupied with 300 individuals in them thus far. This is more than we ever had in the West, more than we ever had in response to the tornadoes. Obviously, a lot more to go. Now, when you look at this slide, I just want to point out a couple of things. Number one, we're having some people transition out. These are 9 families that went in and are now leaving the sheltering program. That's actually a good thing, and we saw it in the West. That means they have found more stable housing, maybe a rental. Sometimes people even find a purchase. So virtually every time the family transitions out of our sheltering program, it's because of a positive outcome with a more stable arrangement. Even though these are certainly stable, we don't want these to be forever homes. This is not the end. This is the middle. This is intermediate housing. Now you see some like Letcher County, those just arrived this week into last week, and Perry County. What we're having to do there is either build out the utilities or attach the utilities in safe ways to these travel trailers. That's electricity and water and gas, and that has to be done safely. That's why you see 0 ready there. That means that they are still working on the hookups to the utilities. So this is a breakdown of how many are on site, how many are ready, and how many are occupied, and we'll continue to be providing those updates. Perry County and Letcher County are going to fill up pretty quickly because of the waiting list once they are ready. Got to thank Louisiana and Governor John Bel Edwards again for donating up to 300 travel trailers to us at no cost. These trailers were originally acquired to aid Hurricane Ida survivors. Now, 65 of those Louisiana trailers have arrived in Kentucky. I walked through one yesterday. They are pristine, in line with every other travel trailer we are providing. I want to point out again that some rumors are out there that have inaccurately stated there's a 60 or a 90-day occupancy limit in the sheltering program. That is not true. What we do have is a program where we check on and renew people's sheltering every 30 days. That's case management, where we can check on you, make sure things are okay, get you any other services. Nobody's getting kicked out after 30 days, but we are going to check on you and try to see what other options may be out there that would be better, how things are going. This is best practice that we are engaged in and will continue to, but we want to make sure we dispel that rumor. You can find more information on our flood resource page. So we went over the FEMA dollars that have come in, also $13.3 million from the National Flood Insurance Program, $36.1 million from the U.S. Small Business Association as well. Schools, it was neat to be in Perry County this week on Tuesday because every single school was back. The last 2 had started back that day, and that's incredible when you look at the damage that's been done. So we're down to 3 remaining school districts, and they have reopening dates planned here in September. In Letcher County School District is planning to reopen on the 21st of September, and Jenkins, which is 2 schools, plan to reopen on the 13th of September. And then there's Knott County, estimate reopening on the 19th of September. It may be pushed back. They got a lot of damage, and they are working their hardest. But really exciting to even be at some events on Tuesday. And we normally love seeing the kids. They weren't there at any of them because they were in school, which is a stable, good place for them to be, where we can check on them even more. Debris update. Another 204 loads of debris amounting to 4,440 tons were removed on Wednesday. To date, 5,347 loads have been hauled out. That's 78,218 tons. Another 338 loads amounting to 4,265 tons were removed on Wednesday from waterways. To date, looking at the waterways, 2,834 loads 37,041 tons. It is incredible to see the difference. When we talk about Western Kentucky, we're going to look at before and after pictures, but just going along the same routes that were just littered all throughout the waterway with parts of people's homes and lives, now being almost completely clean is amazing to see. All right, we move from the stabilization phase to the rebuilding phase. Certainly, roads and bridges are a big part of that. So we've now inventoried public, these are public bridges, 1,098. We've now inventoried every county or state bridge that's been out there. We estimate the total cost to fix them at $54 million. $9 million of that is probably to the state bridges. 165 bridges have issues caused by flooding. 93 require replacement. 6 require super replacement. I'll get a definition of what super replacement is. And certainly a lot of work already going on. On Friday, we did announce that the Transportation Cabinet had begun the work on repairing these bridges. The priority is the 170 public-owned crossings that have already been identified, and we are working with unprecedented speed to get them fixed. Single-family housing repair loans and grants, a program from the USDA known as Section 504 Housing Repair, is available to eligible homeowners. To learn more, go to our flooding webpage. And disaster unemployment. We've talked about this a bunch. I just want to give a reminder that the deadline to apply for disaster unemployment is October the 10th. New today, a new Homeland Security grant funding for disaster case management in flood-impacted Eastern Kentucky counties. So we've been notified we'll be receiving $1 million in Federal Emergency Management Agency disaster case management grant funding for expanded flood survivor services in Eastern Kentucky. The Department for Behavioral Health, Development, and Intellectual Disabilities had applied for it. It's from the Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency Disaster Case Management, and it'll expand long-term services in 13 counties. It's going to help a lot of residents. We are grateful for it, and it is in place through July 30th of 2024. All right, the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund, it now is at about $9.3 million. This is the only fully transparent, subject to open records and legislative oversight fund that's out there. We've currently paid for all 39 funerals. The least we can do is grieve together, and nobody should have to apply for reimbursement there. We announced the second step is we're going to provide $500 to anyone and everyone who was granted any amount of FEMA assistance through the Individual Assistance Program. We've now reached an agreement with FEMA to get that information. So we'll be taking that information and getting those payments out the door. I hope to have an update next week. I certainly hope by next week some of them are going out the door. Certainly it'll be more than 7,000 different individuals and or families that will be receiving this assistance. You can help by donating to the Team Eastern Kentucky Flood Relief Fund at the website on the screen. Rebuilding is going to take years. We believe our next announcement, probably coming next week, is going to deal with housing, and certainly the majority of additional dollars that come in, and dollars are still coming in, will likely help with the long-term housing challenge that we have in front of us. So earlier this week, I was back in Eastern Kentucky to inspect the travel trailers myself, and able to provide some good news for some grants to a couple of the counties. So we talked about Perry County, which is where we are here. We actually had grants totaling $11.6 million going into Perry County that are going to be a big help. The big one was the $8.8 million for Hazard, Buckhorn, and Perry County, and that's building that 2 million gallon per day water treatment plant in Buckhorn. It's going to be located in the Middle Fork of the Kentucky River. It's going to serve over 1,000 households 19 businesses, and it's going to increase the capacity at the Coalfields Regional Industrial Park. And why that's important is jobs. Now, we announced hundreds of new jobs since the tornadoes. We'll talk about it in a minute in Graves County and right across the county line from Dawson Springs. This is going to help increase capacity to one of the best places that we can land new employers. The project's expected to generate $13 million in private investment to create over 350 jobs and retain another 350. We also had a $65,000 Land and Water Conservation Fund grant that's going towards improvements in the Perry County Park, and that's where this is. I didn't know that admittedly until I got there, but this travel trailer site is right on the top of Perry County Park, and it's going to resurface some of the tennis courts and assist that park that we drove past going in. It needs it, but it's going to happen at a time where these families can enjoy it while they rebuild their lives. And finally was the $1.789 million CDBG grant, where we are going to renovate the former manufacturer supply building for a new ambulance station. So these are all of our EMS folks there in the county. They do an incredible job. This is going to help them respond faster and better. So we also visited Floyd County to announce some other important projects. One was a $770,000 grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission to help construct a new water treatment plant in the city of Wheelwright. We've seen how important water infrastructure is. This project is going to replace the existing plant with a larger capacity one. That's going to help 350 households and 15 businesses in the city. That is the mayor of Wheelwright right there holding the check with the state representative. He was as excited as he could be. He clutched that thing and wasn't going to let anybody else have it. It was good talking to him about the jobs that have been created in Wheelwright, especially in the last couple of years. We also announced $1.9 million from our Cleaner Water Program for the Southern Water and Sewer District, and that is actually going to go along with an extra $1.5 million what we call AMLR program grant, which is going to significantly improve water and wastewater infrastructure in Floyd County. 10 unserved households are going to finally have access to clean drinking water, and 100 customers are going to have their lines and meters replaced and upgraded. All right. So let's move from the east to the west. It's still a little hard to process that within 7 months, we had two of the worst natural disasters that any of us could have ever imagined. And we are committed in both areas to rebuilding every structure and every life. So soon we're going to mark the 9-month anniversary of the deadly tornadoes that hit Western Kentucky on December 10th and December 11th. As we continue to mourn the loss, I want to provide some updates on where we stand in helping survivors rebuild and recover. After those storms passed, and that was just 2 weeks before Christmas, everybody took immediate action to assist in any way they could, from volunteers to nonprofits to state, local, and federal officials. Everybody stepped up to help. We requested and received one of the fastest president-approved major disaster declarations. I think the only one that's ever been faster than that was for the flooding, roughly 7 months after. 16 counties were designated for federal assistance, and assistance was on the way. FEMA went door to door, or rubble to rubble, with how hard these areas were hit. And they set up disaster centers in those counties. All the while, transportation crews, local workers, and so many more were working day and night to clear what seemed like endless debris. As Christmas approached, hundreds of thousands of toys and gift cards, nearly 10 tractor trailer trucks full, were donated and collected during the First Lady's Toy Drive, bringing a little bit of light, smiles, and maybe even a few giggles to those kiddos that had been through so much. We continue to stand with the people of Western Kentucky. We continue to be committed to helping them rebuild. Here are a few milestones that have been reached in the Western Kentucky tornado region. To date, it's estimated that federal, state, and Red Cross disaster assistance has totaled more than $292.6 million. The Commonwealth of Kentucky represents more than $123 million, and that's through both the SAFE Act and the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund. That's up from $108 million that we announced at the 6-month anniversary. Our West Kentucky State Aid for Emergencies Fund that was set up by the legislature at the end of the regular session has now approved $71.3 million to provide victims shelter and travel trailers, support impacted schools and students, and provide local rebuilding assistance. More than $9.8 million from the Western Kentucky Safe Fund was spent on travel trailers and campground upgrades. $10.8 million was awarded to school districts for wraparound services to school children and their families. To date, more than $41.7 million has been awarded to the affected counties to cover services not covered by FEMA and to ease the financial strain of having to wait for FEMA reimbursement. And about $9 million went to the University of Kentucky to rebuild their Grain and Forage Center of Excellence in Princeton. But it wasn't just that SAFE fund. It was also the Team Western Kentucky Tornado Relief Fund that in the end saw almost $52 million of donations from around the country. To date, we have committed $42.5 million from that fund for both short and long-term recovery efforts. First, we paid for every funeral, just like we have in the East, so that those families could have that moment of grief. And I know they've had so many others. Over $3.6 million now been paid out to Graves County area farmers. And that's the wider area that used a granary that had been impacted, in fact, had been wiped out. Now the relief fund is focused on long-term recovery with an emphasis on housing. $16 million was pledged to Habitat, Homes for Hope, and Fuller Center for Housing to build 300 homes in the affected communities. To date, 25 homes have been built or are under construction. 6, the keys have been handed over and the families are in. 19 are going to be completed by the end of the year. And for those continuing to face long-term recovery with unmet needs, another $12 million has been pledged, and that's being handled by local recovery groups. So thank you to the more than 150,000 donors to that Western Kentucky Fund. Federal dollars, total response, $95.7 million, and parks. And our parks, just like in the East, stepped up and did incredible work. They housed and provided food service to 835 people. And the last distressed guest checked out of Kentucky Dam Village Resort Park on July 18th. Shows you when you look at housing and shelter that you do reach a point where people are stabilized. We sheltered more than 580 people in travel trailers. 164 are still in 68 travel trailers. Red Cross sheltered 891 individuals. FEMA provided housing for 92. Certainly a lot of debris that has been removed, but I want to show just a few photos that show you the difference that 9 months can make. So we're going to start with Dawson Springs. This is one of my favorite photos, and the photographer actually brought me a copy of this. This was the first day of school for the Dawson Springs Independent School District, where they were going to get those kids back to normalcy, even when 70% of all the housing had been wiped out. But let's show you a little bit of the progress. So that is the same stretch. Go back. Look, this is the bus coming up this street, and that's it today. Let's go to the next one. Yeah. Again, you see the difference that has been made and how much work has gone into it. These are all Dawson. So as you can see, debris removal completed. You even see grass growing where so much of the debris was. And if you're in Dawson Springs, you'll see a lot of construction. I want to skip over some of the other services that we have provided. We're happy to give that full update, but I want to talk about hope that we're also seeing in these communities. And hope is future looking as opposed to present. And so every single jobs announcement we've had in this region has been so important because we don't want to see depopulation in Western Kentucky, and we don't want to see it in Eastern Kentucky. So I remember the day we announced Ascend Elements that's going to Hopkinsville. That's right on the other side of the Pennyrile, which was a WPA project that my grandparents met at from Dawson Springs. That is 250 jobs. They're going to be people who live in Dawson Springs that work at Ascend Elements. It's creating hope for that community. Mayfield Consumer Products announced employment between two different announcements of nearly 500 people in Graves County. Holibus in the area in Callaway announced 150 new jobs in the Briggs and Stratton building. That had been the biggest employer, one of the biggest in the region, certainly in that county, that moved out in 2019. Pretty special to see it filled again. HHO Carbon's Clean Systems in the area, 35 new jobs. Casey Jones Distillery, 15 new jobs. If you go a little further out in Todd County, Delavine Ag Pumps, 30 new jobs. Novellus, 140 new jobs, and another facility on the way. Listen, we may get knocked down, but we never get knocked out, and we are not going to let any natural disaster, no matter how big, or any pandemic, push us backwards. There is a bright future in Kentucky, and we got to make sure in these hard-hit communities that they see it, that it is there, and that there are jobs waiting at the end of this rebuilding effort. All right, very quickly, I want to talk about our orphan well capping program. The federal government wanted us to put that release out on a Friday, but I think it's really exciting. It's going to create jobs, and it's really good for the environment. So as part of a recent announcement by the federal government, we're expanding our Better Kentucky plan to include a $25 million grant through the bipartisan infrastructure law to allow communities, businesses, and local governments to benefit from orphan well capping. What this means is up to 1,200 wells can be capped through this initial grant. This will allow Kentucky to make significant progress in reclaiming abandoned mine lands and redeveloping brownfields. It'll create about 120 jobs. It's going to help farmers and private landowners reduce the environmental impact of orphan oil and gas wells. They can release methane, which has a significant climate impact. Interested contractors are encouraged to bid through the Finance Cabinet on the orphan wells identified by the Division of Oil and Gas that are eligible for the program. So far, the Cabinet's issued 17 requests for proposals, and the Division of Oil and Gas hopes to have those contracts awarded by the end of September. That'll plug 312 wells. The state has the potential to receive another $79 million in the next phase of this program. It's been supported by the Kentucky Oil and Gas Association. We've worked with them to make sure that these jobs will be local and not just national contractors. Also, just want to mention quickly, I think we got a couple photos. September is an important month for a lot of reasons. It's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Did an event at the Ronald McDonald House with some amazing, brave kids and young adults. Really special to meet them, to see how their families support them. We need more money for research. Certainly, this last budget had more than has ever been provided, but it's not enough as long as there is one child suffering from cancer. And it's also Hunger Action Month. It's about 700,000 Kentuckians that they believe are food insecure, meaning they go hungry at some point in the month. And a ton of those are children. Now, we've done so much these past couple of years to increase the amount of meals we have going out. Thanks to this last budget, for the very first time in Kentucky, we have no waiting list for seniors that need meals, but there's a lot that everybody can do to help. COVID-19, the new boosters are now available. The boosters are aimed at the Omicron virus, and they are recommended for all persons 12 years and older who had their last dose 2 months ago. Doesn't matter if you've had 3 or 4 shots, you need to get this one if it has been at least 2 months since your last one. They're available at pharmacies, doctor's offices, and health departments. Locations and appointments can be found at vaccines.gov. Let me just say, I'm going to get this booster aimed at Omicron. All of my family is going to get this booster. My kids, 12 and 13, are going to get this booster. It is safe, and it's going to protect us from, or better protect us from, the variant that is out there right now. Update on monkeypox. We're now up to 34 cases statewide. Anybody who is at risk needs to get vaccinated. And finally, our team, Kentucky All-Stars, are those hard-working employees at our Kentucky state parks who have been there for people who have lost absolutely everything. We got a short video today to honor them.
The night of the flood, I was actually here at the park in Prestonsburg. It didn't take long to initiate that state parks was going to be, shelter areas. I believe within 36 hours, we were receiving the first folks in. We currently have about 74 guests that are staying in emergency management trailers that have been placed here in our campground. And as more trailers arrive, we're able to provide more assistance through our travel trailer program. So through the lodge, our cottages, and now the travel trailer program, we're able to provide assistance to almost 270 people. So as you can see behind me, some of the travel trailers we already have on site. The early arrivals were from Western Kentucky, as we were able to utilize some of those trailers from the tornadoes. And we've got 10 travel trailers that came from Louisiana. Kentucky Emergency Management is immediately moving to fill those 10 trailers that have arrived from Louisiana. They inspect these travel trailers as they come in very diligently, making sure that they're going to meet the needs of people that are going to be able to stay in these for the time that's needed. Thanks to Governor Beshear, in his office, everybody from the top down really responded to help so many. And the folks that are here that are displaced are so grateful to be able to get that assistance. It is absolutely phenomenal to be part of Team Kentucky and to be able to help those in need.
That's our park director there at Jenny Wiley, who's been doing a phenomenal job. I have one correction, and given that we've been going for about 40 minutes, one ain't that bad. To date, it's estimated that federal, state, and Red Cross disaster assistance totals $224.3 million in Western Kentucky. I think I added a little bit to that, 224.3. All right, with that, we'll open it up to questions. We'll start with Tom, go to Carolina, and then we've got some folks on the phone.
Okay, thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Haven't heard anything about Marion and their water supply lately. You got any kind of an update on how folks are doing there?
So it is stable. We got some rain, which certainly helped. We have a ton of water that's there. I think we are still working on the hookup to the city of Sturgis, but we are receiving more water from other water systems around. We'll get you a full update on it, but once we have that Sturgis connection, while that might not be the permanent solution, that should end the emergency. Carolina?
Governor, when it comes to the federal student loan forgiveness, there was some information originally that Kentucky would be taxing that relief. Then different information came out. Do you have any clarification on that? And then do you believe that states should be taxing something that's essentially a relief measure?
Yeah, we should not be taxing something that is a relief measure. My understanding is that it will not be taxed for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. If anybody sees other information, let us know, because it should not be taxed here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I think that while people may have different beliefs about that program, nobody wants to see somebody paying tax because of it. Joe Sonka, Courier Journal.
Thank you. I have a question for you regarding a case before the U.S. Supreme Court right now involving North Carolina's redistricting maps. That was brought forth by the Republican-led legislature. They're challenging their Supreme Court's decision to throw out their maps due to being unconstitutional and redrawing new ones. There was an amicus brief filed this week by Daniel Cameron supporting the legislature's view that they alone have the right to deal with redistricting. The Conference of Chief Justices also filed an amicus brief on the other side saying that the state courts should have the right to review those and see if they violate the state constitution. So checking to see if you have an opinion on that particular case before the Supreme Court.
Yeah, we have three branches of government for a reason. And our Attorney General continues to be willing to do anything and everything that the legislature says or suggests, which is not his job, nor is it the job of our court system. It's really basic that each branch of government is supposed to check the other so that no one becomes too powerful. The idea that you can redraw maps without any limitations at all, that's just wrong. The abuses that can happen, voters are supposed to choose their representatives. Representatives aren't supposed to choose their voters, and they're not supposed to be able to draw maps in such an unfair way that they will never, ever be voted out. That would basically allow someone to give themselves a lifetime term in the state legislature. Court system's supposed to be independent. So is the Attorney General. Austin Horn, Lexington Herald Leader.
Thank you, Governor. I'm wondering if you have any comments on Kelly Craft entering the governor's race, and if you have any general evaluation of a growing Republican field.
I don't spend much time thinking about 2023 and an election when we have so many people still suffering in Eastern Kentucky and so much rebuilding to do in Western Kentucky. I've pledged to both of those regions to give them my all, to push politics aside and to help them rebuild. And the rest of my time we're spending with record-setting economic development, with the best year in our history in terms of private investment and jobs. And this year, it looks like we're going to have our second best year. I mean, I just saw the numbers yesterday from our first EV announcement to date. We have over $9 billion in new investment just in the EV sector. Meanwhile, we have the lowest unemployment rate in the history of Kentucky. We have the fewest people on unemployment since the year 2000. Two of the three bond rating agencies have upgraded our economic outlook to positive, the first time in 15 to 16 years that's happened. We had the largest growth in revenue here in the Commonwealth in 30 plus years. We've had the two largest budget surpluses in Kentucky's history, and we have the largest rainy day fund. And listen, there are other records that we're breaking too, and those are all important because they help our families, and they're going to help us become an economic leader and not a follower. Listen, I ran for governor to be a good governor, and right now that takes being there for Kentuckians that have been knocked down, and then building a brighter future for all of our kids. And that is all I'm focused on. Whatever's going to happen in that primary is going to happen. Melissa Patrick.
Hi, Governor. So will the state offer any funding to promote or lead any promotional efforts around this new bivalent vaccination? And just to be clear, has that vaccine been distributed across the state already?
So it's a good question, Melissa. Some of the vaccine, my understanding, is here, and some of it is coming. For instance, the Frankfurt Health Department has some coming in, and we're actually going to have a vaccine clinic here in the Capitol for those that are interested, and we're certainly going to use that and other means to promote the vaccine. But as you know, most, if not all, of the funding that would support that has either been cut or not provided in the current budget or coming down from Congress. But I will say that by now, people get this information. It's out there. If you've received a couple of vaccines already, you know that they're safe and effective. And now is an important time for everybody that's out there with any type of megaphone, whether that's business leadership or running for office, to say very clearly that these new Omicron booster shots are safe, are effective, and people should get them. It's part of our civic duty to protect one another. And the fastest way to get out of this pandemic, because we all want it to end, is for people to get out there and get boosted. I'm going to get my booster, and I'm going to get it publicly to show how I believe and know that these vaccines are safe and effective. Okay, thank you all very much. We're going to continue to work hard for those that have been knocked down, but we're also going to make sure their kids and grandkids have a big, bright future here in Kentucky. Thanks.